Solutions, Avalara, tax compliance done right. And by C3AI. C3AI software enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolvable problems. C3AI. This is Enterprise AI.
As of the weekend, New Yorkers can now make legal online wagers on the Jets, the Giants, or the Knicks. After a 2018 Supreme Court decision overturned federal restrictions, more than 30 states have now legalized some form of sports gambling, but not a big kahuna. California. Marketplace's Matt Levin reports.
Whoever runs sports gambling in California is going to make a lot of money. Peter Schenke is a board member of the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association.
California is the holy grail. It's the biggest piece out there, but unfortunately, most people think it's going to be the last piece of the puzzle.
Some Native American tribes want to restrict sports betting to their casinos. Online platforms like FanDuel and DraftKings want gamblers to be able to bet from anywhere. So with potentially tens of billions of dollars at stake,
California has just been a very difficult political environment to get anything passed.
The interest group Hornets Nest has produced 4 separate initiatives that could be on the midterm ballot in November. But money can be an incentive for compromise, says Thad Kauser, a political science professor at UC San Diego.
They can withdraw and not have to pay the millions of dollars it'll take to win a ballot fight.
If there is no deal, online gambling platforms have already pledged $100 million for their campaign. You know what they say, always bet on yourself. I'm Matt Levin for Marketplace.
According to the White House now, people with health insurance should be able to pay nothing for up to 8 at-home COVID tests a month. This is supposed to start this Saturday. Insurance companies can, if they want, set up special deals online with pharmacies, but these tests remain hard to find. Been on any fruitless scavenger hunts to multiple stores or pharmacies lately for these? And I see, for instance, CVS and Walgreens have none for online shipping this morning. I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
Webster University, with campuses in Jacksonville and throughout Florida. Graduate business programs including the MBA, Human Resource Management, and Master of Health Administration. Enrolling for spring 2022 term. Info at webster.edu/Jacksonville.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Personal Injury and Wrongful Death Law Firm. When people are hurt through no fault of their own, answering who, what, when, where, why, and how is critical to proving the truth. More at terrellhogan.com.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect with Melissa Ross. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
A local activist threatens to take the governor to court. I'm Melissa Ross, and just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, we speak with Jacksonville activist Ben Frazier and his attorney, John Phillips. Frazier says he'll sue Governor DeSantis in both state and federal court after he was arrested at the governor's news conference here last week. That's coming up then later.
We decided fairly quickly to not just get on board, but do 100%. When the solar farm is available, we'll be online for 100% of our energy.
One of the region's biggest employers, Florida Blue, goes 100% solar. We'll explain in our Going Green. All of that and more, just ahead. After the day's news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. President Biden is traveling to Atlanta today to renew his push for federal legislation to protect voting rights. As NPR's Juana Summers reports, some voting rights activists in Georgia have expressed skepticism at the White House's approach.
Activists have been calling on President Biden to detail a strategy to ensure that 2 bills, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, make their way to his desk. Both bills are opposed by Republicans and have stalled in the Senate. A coalition of Georgia-based voting rights groups urged Biden not to come to their state without a clear plan. Cliff Albright is a co-founder of Black Voters Matter.
What we need is action. What we need is a plan. What we need is for him to lean into the filibuster and do what he has not yet done, which is give a clear call for it to be modified.
Albright and other activists say they won't attend the speech and that Biden would be better served by staying in Washington and focusing on a plan to overcome Republican opposition in the Senate. Juana Summers, NPR News.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell appears this morning before the Senate Banking Committee. Senators are weighing his nomination for a second term. NPR Scott Horsley reports the hearing comes as the central bank is facing the highest level of inflation in the U.S. in nearly 40 years.
Jerome Powell began his tenure as Fed chairman trying to fine-tune an economy that was reaping the benefits of near full employment. That soon gave way, though, to the sharpest recession in nearly a century. When the pandemic first struck, the Fed responded aggressively by slashing interest rates and pumping out trillions of dollars to cushion the blow. In a second term, Powell is likely to face much different challenges as he and his Fed colleagues try to rein in inflation without stalling the economic recovery. The U.S. has yet to regain more than 3.5 million jobs lost during the pandemic, but with unemployment now below 4%, the Fed's focus on job growth may take a back seat to a renewed emphasis on price stability. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Some school districts across the U.S. are seeing a dramatic spike in coronavirus infections in their communities. So they're sending students home to resume classes online. Students are falling ill, and NPR's Corey Turner says so are essential workers in school districts.
In many cases, it really comes down to one word: staffing. So many teachers and bus drivers are out sick right now that districts just don't have enough adults. Making matters worse, many communities are suffering from a very real shortage of substitute teachers.
NPR's Corey Turner reporting. Students in Chicago schools will return to class tomorrow. The teachers' union and city officials have come to an agreement over pandemic safety protocols. Separately, cold weather is closing many schools in the Northeast United States today. The National Weather Service is warning of wind chills well below zero from parts of New York to Maine. This is NPR.
It's now 4 minutes after 9. This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is likely to outline a largely conservative agenda in his State of the State speech today, his last of his first term as he seeks re-election and eyes a possible 2024 presidential run. He will likely outline proposals ranging from attempts to prevent schools and businesses from teaching critical race theory to keeping undocumented immigrants from settling in Florida. We'll bring you the State of the State speech live this morning at 11. COVID vaccination cards are among the important documents we need to keep up with, but what if you lost track of yours? Carrie Barber helps ease your mind.
Add the COVID vaccination cards for you and your family members to the pile of essential documents that are somewhere around here. But what if you find yourself needing to show those cards at an event or location where proof of vaccination is required, but you can't find yours? Don't panic. Chief Epidemiologist at University of Florida Health Shands Hospital, Nicole Marie Iovine, says it's pretty simple. Just call or return to the site where you got your vaccination. They all keep records, so they should be able to create a replacement card for you. And in case this happens again, be sure to photograph or scan your card and keep a copy on your phone or computer. As an extra backup, email a copy of that scan to yourself. I'm Carrie Barber.
It's now 44 degrees in Jacksonville, partly cloudy right now, mostly sunny this afternoon, near 59s.
Support for NPR comes from iDrive, providing cloud backup, full system backup, and on-site iDrive appliance to protect PCs, Macs, and servers from data loss due to crashes and ransomware at iDrive.com/NPR and Americans for the Arts.
A local activist says he'll sue the governor in both state and federal court. Good morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross. Thanks for listening. This is First Coast Connect. And just ahead this hour, we speak with Jacksonville activist Ben Frazier and his attorney, John Phillips. Lots of calls already. Join the conversation. It's 549-2937. Then later, why Florida Blue is going 100% solar next year. That's in our Going Green. But first this morning, Jacksonville activist Ben Frazier says he'll sue Governor Ron DeSantis in both federal and state court unless a trespassing charge stemming from his high-profile arrest last week is dropped. Frazier made the announcement Monday with his attorney, also a high-profile local citizen, John Phillips. Now, Frazier faces a misdemeanor trespassing charge after he entered the governor's COVID press conference here in Jacksonville last week without media credentials. A dozen other demonstrators also showed up wanting to speak to the governor, but Frazier was the only one arrested. Phillips says that when Frazier, who is disabled, was removed from his motorized scooter and made to walk out of the building without it, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office violated its own policy as well as the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. For more on this potential litigation, we welcome back to the show Ben Frazier, who heads up the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. Hi, Ben.
Good morning.
Good to talk to you. And John Phillips, also on the line representing Mr. Frazier. Hi, John.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us, gentlemen. Lots of calls. We'll go to them in a moment. Join us, 549-2937. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax. Ben Frazier, you've retained John Phillips, who we'll speak to in a moment. You're saying you will sue the governor unless they drop the charges against you. Is that right?
That is correct. We're going to proceed. However, we are in fact hopeful that maybe the governor will have a change of heart and actually decide to sit down and discuss the issues which we think are most relevant to Black people and poor people in the state of Florida.
When you arrived at the press conference last week, were you planning to ask the governor questions about COVID-19, which is what he was here to talk about, or some of the social justice issues that you're known for?
Well, quite frankly speaking, we wanted to talk with him about him playing politics with the pandemic. For the past year, he's used the pandemic as his campaign whistle stop throughout the state of Florida. I think he needs to stop doing that. We recognize he does have some caring and feeling for the people of Florida, but we all recognize this guy has a hidden agenda, and that is his push for the GOP presidential nomination. We wanted to talk with the governor about relevant issues. For example, housing, education, healthcare, economics, racial disparities, and the day-to-day challenges confronting poor families in the state of Florida and the families of color.
It's 549-2937. John Phillips, you are representing Ben Frazier. Now, the governor's press secretary is arguing you have no case. She says Frazier has the right to protest in public places, but not to trespass in a secured facility in order to disrupt a press briefing. Your client is due in court later this month on this misdemeanor charge. What's your legal argument?
That press secretary loves going on Twitter and attacking people. That's part of the problem here. You can restrict speech, you can trespass, you can restrict places, but you can't restrict the manner of speech, a particular type of speech, and that's exactly what happened here. Look, Ben's been doing media in this town, award-winning journalist for 40 to 50 years. And I think I said 30 to 40, Ben. He corrected me yesterday. And he even contributed to Folio Weekly just because he didn't have the little magic card. Long after he got into the room, they decided to trespass him. We're investigating whether this meeting even met Sunshine Law requirements, but regardless, the way it went down on video was appalling, and it was the manner of speech. They singled out Ben. We know why, because he's the loud voice. We're about to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr., but we still arrest Ben Frazier. It's appalling and it's ridiculous.
Now, you're also going to argue that JSO violated its own policies and also the Americans with Disabilities Act because Ben Frazier uses a motorized scooter, and he wasn't allowed to take that with him when he was cuffed and arrested. What's the the merit of that argument. Can you explain that a little bit? Because the fact that Ben is somewhat disabled has figured, I think, largely into why this whole flap went national.
Probably. Ben took his scooter up into the room and was sitting in the room, when they kind of had the change of heart of what, who was invited. Once somebody is prescribed in using an assistive device, they get to use that assistive device. And unfortunately, the officer took him off. He asked for it. And then they took it down a separate elevator, I believe, and separated him and then threw Ben or put Ben in the back of a police car. And it's just, look, we've got to be sensitive to others' disabilities and to the socioeconomic, systemic racism that we have. If we just turn a blind eye to all of it and say that doesn't fit my message for purposes of this meeting, then we haven't progressed whatsoever.
If you're just tuning in, this is First Coast Connect. I'm Melissa Ross. We're speaking with Jacksonville activist Ben Frazier and his attorney, John Phillips. Yesterday, they held a press conference saying that Frazier plans to sue Governor Ron DeSantis in both state and federal court unless the governor drops its trespassing charge against Frazier. Frazier was cuffed and arrested last week at the governor's press conference at the Duval County Health Department. You might have seen that. What are your thoughts? It's 549-2937, 549-2937. Mike is on the line in Mandarin. Hi, Mike. Go ahead.
Hey, Melissa. Thanks for taking my call. And thank you, Mr. Frazier, for attempting to question the governor. It's a shame that you were arrested. You are exactly right to say Governor DeSantis is an enemy of the people. As you said, he's put politics before public health in the COVID crisis. He's attempting to intimidate teachers from teaching the truth about white supremacy in America to our students. And he's attempting to intimidate peaceful protesters with his HB1 law. If anything, the governor should be falling all over himself to provide state funds to remove that Confederate monument in Springfield Park, since, as you reported, Melissa, the state put up half the funds for that monument. So the governor should pay up to help take that monument down. Keep up the good work, Mr. Frazier, and thank you again, Melissa.
Mike, thanks for the call. Ben Frazier, we need to point out that your organization, the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville, you have been calling for the removal of Confederate monuments. That's really what you've been known for in this community. Not only that, your organization was part of a federal lawsuit against the, as it's known, the anti-riot law that the governor and the legislature passed. A federal judge has struck down part of that law. You have argued it would essentially criminalize protest in the public square. I just want to make sure people understand that because it is related to what happened last week at the health department. This law would essentially give the state sweeping powers to arrest people at any demonstration that turns violent in any way, even if people are just on the fringes, just happen to be there, they could theoretically be swept up in mass arrests. However, as I mentioned, a federal judge struck down part of that law. Can you talk a little bit more about why you joined that lawsuit?
Most definitely. The legislature passed HB1 last session as an assault on the people's freedom to assemble, a freedom that I might add is foundational to the republic of democracy. Public expression, we all know, is critical to a functioning democracy. This governor wants to silence his critics. That is un-American and undemocratic. That is dictatorial. That is something from some authoritarian place far away from here. We will not sit in silence as this governor attempts to run roughshod in a dictatorial fashion over the rights of the people. Sadly, the freedom of the people does not align with this governor's plans. He's shown a willingness to trade our freedoms for his political ambition, and that is wrong.
Lots of calls. Bonnie in Jacksonville Beach. Bonnie, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning, Melissa, and hello, Ben. I have two questions that I don't think have been answered yet, so I'd like to ask John and Ben. the questions. One, if the building was secured and the room was secured, how did Ben and the other protesters, how were they allowed entrance? And then the second question is, why, after they already moved the governor's podium and decided to relocate the press conference, did they continue to confront Ben and agitate the situation? Why did they just not de-escalate by leaving the room and letting a JSO officer monitor the attendees who were not journalists? To me, that just emphasizes the fact that they were attempting to escalate the situation. So I'll take my answer off here.
John Phillips, what about those questions?
The perfect questions. That's it. That's the case. So obviously the room and the building wasn't secure until they decided that they wanted to make it secure. And now we're hearing, well, this was a secure building, and days later that, Ben had some, criminal past, and thus they needed to regulate him. Like, it's the worst type of whistleblowing. It's the narrative changes to fit the political agenda.
Let me ask you, though, as a follow-up, John, because we're getting emails from some listeners saying activists would not be allowed into a news conference held by, say, President Biden or House Speaker Nancy Pelosi or other figures, that even though those are public officials who answer to the public, that there is precedent for keeping people out of news conferences that aren't journalists. Yes, Ben is technically a journalist, and he is actually a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. And he's also the first African-American news anchor in Jacksonville who anchored a big show. So, but despite all that, what about the argument that there is precedent for having security at events like this? What's your response to that?
Melissa, we had a press conference here yesterday at my office, and we didn't have anybody that showed up that at the desk at the registration table that we didn't want to allow up, but we have that right. The fact is, Ben was up there, and if they messed up and let him up there, well, then that's on him. But Florida sunshine laws look at these meetings differently. I know Christina Pushaw implemented the Secret Service when she talked about that same argument. Well, the Secret Service has a different protocol, and there was no protocol for DeSantis. And look, when I acquired Folio Weekly, I figured there was some entity that prints out all of the media credentials. I was like, where do I go get my media credentials now? And somebody said, no, here you go. We printed them up for you.
I see.
So,
yeah, no, I understand that. But let me ask you then, Ben, how did you tell us what happened when you showed up? Did you take an elevator up to where the news conference was happening? What all went down there?
At first, I was blocked from going up in the elevator. However, I think it is imperative that we are compelled to look at this from the historical perspective. When Dr. King pushed for Voting Rights Acts, they marched in places like Birmingham. They were not allowed to. They shut them down there. They went ahead and they shut them down with high-powered water hoses. They put the dogs on them. They didn't have the okay from anybody. The security, the Alabama State Police, tried to stop them. They beat them. They did the same thing when they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. There is a comparison here, folks. They were disruptive. It was called civil disobedience. This is in the tradition of King, John Lewis, and Mahatma Gandhi. This is nothing new. This is nothing revolutionary. We are going to continue to rally, to march, and assemble. We will be heard. I'm here to tell you that nothing can stop the people from holding their political leaders accountable, no matter how hard they try. In the old days, it was George Wallace. In the old days, it was Governor Orville Faubus. In the old days, it was sheriffs in different cities and towns who tried to stop the people from marching for their rights. This is nothing new. We are simply accepting the baton in the relay race of history. We
Well,
will continue to press on.
You would certainly not be the first activist to observe that those who will be turning out in force Monday to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the city's MLK breakfast are not necessarily the folks who would have cheered on King when he was in the midst of his activism and getting arrested and so forth. Okay, let's go to Daryl in St. Augustine. Go ahead, Daryl.
Good morning. The selective enforcement of this is what's curious to me. I don't see anybody getting put in handcuffs at the St. Johns County when they protested for the January 6th plaza. I don't see anybody getting arrested in the school board meetings when they're jumping up and down about things that are not taught in school. This it seems to be, if you're black and you're against Republican, well, then we're going to put you in handcuffs. But if you're white and you say, somebody didn't vote or somebody should have voted or whatever, then you can say or do whatever you want. As long as you're a white Republican, you can do whatever you want.
John Phillips.
It goes a step.
John Phillips, you brought that up at your news conference. I think you even played a video.
I did, and somebody played it where I kind of was being flippant with Ben about the statement. 2 days after this, Governor DeSantis held a press conference, defending LGB, Let's Go Brandon, and said speech like that should be able to be used anytime, anywhere. Well, that's disruptive. That is code for an expletive, and that doesn't move the needle at all. It doesn't promote positive conversation at all. But here, Governor DeSantis, and I played it twice, took the pulpit and said, "Hey, we got to protect this speech." But meanwhile, if it's actually fostering the rights of people, it needs to be stymied and stigmatized and arrested, and let's weaponize the court system. You can't have it both ways.
And how do you think that argument's going to fare in court? By the way, we need to point out you haven't filed suit yet, and not only that, State Attorney Melissa Nelson, the top prosecutor for our circuit in Florida, she asked the governor to have this case assigned to another state attorney. So what about those two pieces of this legal puzzle?
Certainly, Ms. Nelson does not want to prosecute due to her long relationship with Mr. Frazier, and so we're going to have to pay, the taxpayers are going to have to pay somebody else to come to town to prosecute this misdemeanor of trespass charge. We're not negotiating on the trespass. It needs to go away, and if it doesn't go away, then you can't look. Most of the people that come into my office on a civil rights case have been shot or killed or dog attacks. But on the same token, we're just wrapping up Omarosa's 3-year battle with Trump over her putting out a book. And it's the weaponized
and you successfully represented Omarosa, we should point out, who lives here in Jacksonville now, by the way, just adding that context.
My attorney fee motion is going out today with 2,400 hours of time over the last 3 years, and because the campaign's responsible for it. And we don't want tax money to have to go towards First Amendment cases. The First Amendment should stand on its own, but on the same token, these incremental punishments of speech have to stop, because we all have to be able to speak. If the governor can say, look, everybody has the right to say anything, anywhere, oh, wait, except that, the First Amendment doesn't come with earmuffs.
Tiffany is downtown. Yeah, Tiffany is downtown. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My question is more so as a parent who has children that have graduated from the Duval County school system. As this plays out for future generations, parents have conversations with their children about what they watch on news. And I'm sure there have been many conversations about what's going on with Ben Frazier, particularly in the Black community. Ben, and to your attorney as well, either one of you can answer this. How do you hope, or what do you hope that our future lawyers and Ben Fraziers our children, for example, at Douglas Anderson, who have expressed their right to assemble. This is a teachable moment for them. What do you hope that they learn now and for the future? And I'll take my answer off the air.
Thank you, Tiffany. Ben?
Well, the fact of the matter is that we must accept, each of us, the baton in the relay race of history. Martin was great, but Martin's gone. Harriet's gone. Sojourner Truth gone. Malcolm gone. Medgar Evers gone. We must stand up, each one of us. We are compelled to accept the baton in the relay race of history from our ancestors and from other activists who have preceded us. Fannie Lou Hamer stood up for her people. Joseph Lowery, Ralph Abernathy, many others have stood up. We wanted to talk to this governor face to face. Historically, we have been underserved, marginalized. You remember the 1967 movie, Cool Hand Luke? One of the main lines was, what we have here is a failure to communicate. That's what we've got going on with this governor. He doesn't want to address the issues.
That is such an iconic line that applies in so many situations, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, so as Ben carries the baton for civil rights and human rights and social justice issues, John, which he is so well known for, both locally and now nationally, where does this case go from here? What's the next move? Are you negotiating with the governor's office? What's happening? And then we'll wrap it up.
A letter's going out. I've got a brief due in Omarosa versus Trump, so I'm getting past today. But a letter's going out tomorrow to the governor, requesting that this be dismissed. Ben was offered a meeting. Somebody handed him a card to try to shoo him away. Here, call me. And Ben was offered a meeting. We're going to accept that. We accept that meeting. Hopefully it's not the third assistant to the custodian that they try to shove on us. But a guy running for office should want to talk to his constituency. It used to happen all the time. The lack of communication, as Ben so eloquently put it, as he always does, is the issue with where lawyers wind up coming into the room, whether it's a divorce or whatever it is. It's the lack of communication. And here there's a lack of desire to even try to communicate.
We'll follow the story. In the meantime, thank you both for joining us. John Phillips, taking a break from representing Omarosa and the Tiger King to represent Ben Frazier. You're known for a lot of high-profile cases these days. And Ben Frazier, thank you for your time.
Thank you very, very much. Remember, Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. Northside, say it loud and say it proud.
All right. Much more still ahead. Later, we'll tell you how you can enter your youngster in the PBS Kids Writers Contest. That's coming up, but up next.
We decided fairly quickly to not just get on board, but do 100%. When the solar farm is available, we'll be online for 100% of our energy.
One of the city's biggest employers is making a 100% conversion to solar power. We'll tell you how next. Well, Florida Blue is going solar. The insurance giant is the first big corporate customer under JEA's new Solar Max program. And their plan is to reduce the company's carbon footprint by 50% by converting to 100% solar power. They're going to do this next year. For more, I spoke with John Trevathan, Florida Blue Chief Procurement Officer and Vice President of Corporate Services. And it's today's Going Green. Take a listen.
Hey, John, good to talk to you, and thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you, Melissa.
So Florida Blue was the first company to sign on to JEA's new Solar Max program. It lets big companies like yours make solar energy your main source of power. How is this partnership going to work? How is Florida Blue going to make this conversion?
Yeah, initially, Melissa, our decision was around, and this goes back a couple of years, the premium we might have to pay. We looked at it, and it wasn't so significant that we decided fairly quickly to not just get on board, but do 100%. So when the solar farm is available, we'll be online for 100% of our energy coming from solar renewable energy.
So this was just a simple business decision on your part? You decided it made business sense to convert to solar?
Yeah, it started out that way, but as our organization has pursued involvement and made commitments around environmental and social governance, what we hear as ESG. One of the efforts of our real estate department over years has been to reduce consumption, and we've generally been focused on cost savings as a result of that, always knowing that there were some environmental gains. But as a result of the ESG pursuits, we dug deeper and found significant reductions in our carbon footprint. So as we explored that and recognized our own impact and how it aligns with our mission, we joined the Climate Registry, which is a national benchmarking association, and also engaged a third-party auditor to certify our results. And now we're seeing and quantifying our carbon footprint and expressing that in terms of tons of CO2 released into the environment, which is the generally accepted measure of climate impact.
And, at Florida Blue, by the way, your campus is pretty big, 14 Jacksonville buildings. You're going to have solar panels on all of them. But you've been working to reduce emissions anyway. Things like switching to LED lights, more efficient HVAC systems. So you've been a leader in this space in Jacksonville, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think we have. It's a great story to tell. Before I get to that, the solar panels actually won't be on our properties.
They won't?
Yeah. JEA is constructing a solar farm. It will have our co-branded messaging on that farm. We believe it's going up adjacent to I-10 west of town, and it will provide all of the solar energy required for our tower downtown, our Deerwood campus, which is 1.3 million square feet, as well as our retail store that we own in here adjacent to our campus.
So this solar farm will be servicing you at Florida Blue, a big employer, but let's be clear, this kind of option through the Solar Max program at JEA is for big power users like you guys, right? Not the individual homeowner.
I think that's where JEA intends to build their footprint and their critical mass. I think over 98% of their energy today is fossil fuel generated. And so JEA is really taking a great initiative and beginning to source and generate renewable energy for its customers. And I can only imagine that in the near future, they'll continue to look at that option for its smaller customers.
Now, in the meantime, for you at Florida Blue, you're going to be reducing your carbon footprint by at least 50% with this move. How hopeful are you that other big companies, other players in the state will follow Florida Blue's lead on this?
Yeah, we've had a lot of success. Since 2017, we've already reduced our CO2 emissions by 22%. And that, as you mentioned before, is related to various infrastructure upgrades like conversions to LED lighting, upgrading our chiller plant systems, which you can imagine to power and manage the climate, and 2 million square feet approximately of space in the Jacksonville market is significant. But yes, we do expect that as we flip to solar power, that our overall enterprise carbon emissions will be reduced by 50%. And we have many leases outside the city of Jacksonville, about 150 different locations nationwide, and that one conversion is going to have that significant impact on our total footprint as an enterprise.
This is all coming online within about a year or so. It will be interesting to see how this plays out, but JEA has been pitching SolarMax as an alternative to customers installing their own rooftop solar panels. As you pointed out just now, this isn't anything you have to undertake on your own roof. Does that make it a more attractive option for a corporation like Florida Blue?
I would think so. Yeah, but they made it as easy as they possibly could. As I mentioned, a slight premium. One of the things that we're noticing in the marketplace now, and some information from JEA, is with supply chain and energy increases that fossil fuels that we're seeing, that utility prices for the traditional generated power are going to go up. And what you get when you transition and get on board with SolarMax is a segmented supply that is separately charged. And so we won't be exposed to those increases. So by the time they turn us on, we may actually be saving money over our traditional supply, which would be terrific.
Which would be good for you. Well, thanks so much. He's John Trevathan, Chief Procurement Officer, Vice President of Corporate Services at Florida Blue here in Jacksonville, the first big corporate customer for JEA's new SolarMax program. Thanks for joining us.
Melissa, thank you. Appreciate it.
Today's segment of Going Green is sponsored in part by North Florida Land Trust.
Well, parents, listen up. PBS is hosting a kids' writers contest right now, and it's open to any child in kindergarten through third grade. Just get your youngsters to submit an originally written and illustrated story. Circe Lenoble is Grants and Education Outreach Manager here at WJCT, and she joins us now in studio. Hey, Circe.
Hey, Melissa.
Good to talk to you. This is such a great opportunity for parents of young kids and kids who want to really show how they're learning how to write and illustrate and create their own stories.
It really is. And this is my favorite time of the year because we get to start the contest. It started January 1st, and entries are due by March 15th. And we get to read the best stories. And it's so much fun. And it is a great opportunity to instill that love of reading and writing in children at a young age. And it's also a great opportunity for educators to use this as an activity in their classroom. We certainly have classrooms submit a collection of stories. So it's really fun.
Now, what do kids need to know? What are the rules for this story? What exactly do they need to submit?
Well, the rules are clearly lined out on the WJCT.org/writers contest webpage, and there are a certain number of words per grade level and number of illustrations. And really, they just have to write their story based on those guidelines and send them in. We accept them electronically, but we also, most people send them in snail mail. And that allows us to read them. And we have a group of volunteers who help judge and pick out the winners.
That's fun. And the winners, by the way, they get an award. They get their stories published online. They get a goodie bag. They even get the People's Choice winner gets a $100 savings bond. Now, Circe, there's a story writing fun guide with brainstorming activities for kids and parents on our website, right, to kind of help them get started?
Yeah, it helps them get the creative juices flowing. And, this is a real important opportunity, especially with the publishing of the stories online, of all stories, regardless of whether they win or not, for kids to see their work published and their work out there and then shared. And then also the winners are invited for another real world opportunity to read their stories live at our Be My Neighbor Day event every year. And, that's something really important for the kids to start practicing at an early age. And, something that I think is unique to this writers contest.
This is something that has become so beloved. And this is something I'm seeing on our website. You can look at stories from other contest years to see how other kids won and maybe get some ideas for how to build your own story.
Yeah, this contest started in 1994 at WJCT as the Reading Rainbow Writers Contest. But in the last, 7-8 years, we've started keeping the collections online. So you can read all the stories. And then we've also added, when the kids come to Be My Neighbor Day, they get a chance to record them reading their stories. And so those videos are also posted online. So it's a real fun opportunity for kids.
This is something that happens at public media stations all over the country. How did it all get started?
Like I said, it started with the Reading Rainbow Writers Contest.
Okay.
And then it evolved into the PBS Kids Writers Contest. And at one point, it was a whole national kind of plan where we submitted our winners at a national level, but that has kind of scaled back. And here we just felt it was important to keep going because it was such a great way for kids to have this opportunity and for us to engage with the community.
And what did teachers say to you about it? Because teachers get involved too.
Absolutely. And the teachers love it because it's a fun way to, kind of get lessons. We sometimes we get a full class that are writing stories with the word chrysanthemum.
Oh yeah, my daughters loved that book.
And
such
so,
a beloved book.
Yeah, and they use it for spelling, but they also use it for just all the special and important components and aspects of learning to read and write. And the teachers really are excited about the opportunity for the winners to read their stories live in person and also have their stories published online, because that is a component of standards, educational standards, that isn't easy for teachers to be able to incorporate.
Now, as you mentioned, not only do the kids have to come up with an original story and write it, they have to draw pictures too.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
It's the creativity and imagination of our children is just amazing. And they have to do a minimum of 5 illustrations. And we get every topic, every subject, every kind of drawing. We have collage drawing illustrations. We have pen and ink. We have pencil. We have colored. We have crayons. So it's really an opportunity for them to express their creativity, and we love them all.
Anyone with young kids knows this is something they do naturally. Drawing and storytelling. The human brain it really uses story to understand the world. So when you enter your child in this, you're helping with their brain development, essentially. Right?
Absolutely. And the earlier you start, the better. And, it's really wonderful. Sometimes we have students who participate every year, and it's wonderful to see their growth and development.
Now, in all the years you've been running this, do you have a favorite?
Oh.
I'm going to get you in trouble.
I know.
Is there one that really stands out in your mind as so special that you just remember it as your favorite?
I don't know. It's like picking my favorite child. Every year we have a standout that is just, that everyone just picks, that just makes them laugh and makes their heart warm. And one of the recent ones, and I say this because at Be My Neighbor Day, our DJ mentioned it. It was one about We Are the Boxes. And, it was kind of a feel-good recycling story about a family of boxes. So, the kids are smart.
They come up with great stuff.
Yeah.
And I wonder, having lived through more than 2 years of pandemic, if the stories reflect that.
Yeah, we've had stories about the pandemic. And, one story that I remember was about Halloween and them figuring out how they were going to do it and how it was still important and still a great family activity, even though it had to be different.
We just had Be My Neighbor Day here at the station, and the winning kids got to come and read their stories live, and we videotaped that. You can see the winning performances on our website. That must have been so exciting for the kids.
It was. And for that Be My Neighbor Day, we actually had 2 years worth of winners because we had to postpone the event, due to COVID. So we wanted to make sure to include both years of winners, and they really like it. And some kids really struggle, but like this year we had a brother sit with his sister and walk her through it. So it's just an awesome experience.
So with all of that said, the PBS Kids Writing Contest is live now. You have a little time, several more weeks, to submit have your child submit their original story. Anything else people need to know, Circe?
I don't think so. Just postmark it by March 15th.
Or go online to wjct.org/writers contest, and your child can upload their original story. If you have a kid in kindergarten through third grade, have them enter now, as PBS is hosting our annual Kids Writers Contest. Circe Lenoble, Grants and Education Outreach Manager at WJCT. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Melissa.
And a quick break, but when we come back, speaking of reading and writing, our book club leader, Stacy Goldring, is always on point, always timely in the books she chooses for us to read. When we come back, she has classic and current reading prescriptions. For those of us stuck in the never-ending pandemic, that's everybody. What is she reading this month, and how can you be part of our virtual book club? We're going to tell you right after this, so don't go away. You're listening to First Coast Connect on 89.9. We'll be right back.
The Jacksonville Music Experience from WJCT Public Media is your ticket to the local scene. Music reviews, curated playlists, music history, concert recommendations, profiles of local artists, and more. Turn your ear on the beautiful noise emerging from Northeast Florida and learn more about the local artist whose music is reverberating across the country. Visit jacksmusic.org to play it local and play it loud.
ViStar believes that more convenience is better, so they've extended their call center and online chat hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day of the week. Learn more about all that ViStar has to offer at vistarcu.org. Jacksonville University's Linda Berry Stein College of Fine Arts celebrates its 60th anniversary with internationally renowned mezzo-soprano Jamie Barton and composer Jake Heggie, live Sunday, April 10th. More info at ju.edu/Stein College.
On the next Fresh Air, we listen back to our interview with Sidney Poitier, who died Thursday at the age of 94. He was the leading black actor of his generation and the first black actor to win an Oscar for Best Actor. Our interview was recorded in 2000 after the publication of his autobiography. Join us.
Today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
I'm Jane Clayson. Pioneering black ballerinas from the Dance Theater of Harlem reflect on the challenges they faced in the predominantly white ballet world.
The racism within the ballet arts was their behinds are too big or their thighs are too thick. We used to hear all these things.
That's next time on Here and Now.
Today at 2 on WJCT News 89.9.
President Biden's back on the road. He's visiting a state he won narrowly in 2020 and that the White House now describes as the belly of the beast for voter suppression, Georgia.
In state after state, new laws are being written, not to protect the vote, but to deny it.
The state is one of this year's most critical battlegrounds, but can Democrats hold on? Next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, it's time for our monthly book club, and our leader, Stacy Goldring, has some very timely ideas. Reading prescriptions for all of those of us stuck in this never-ending COVID pandemic. Want to take your mind off things? Crack open a good book. Stacy Goldring, what are we reading this month? Good morning.
Good morning, Melissa. How are you?
I'm great.
We are, I take the month off in January with my book clubs, but that does not stop me from reading. And let me tell you, this Omicron, man.
I know.
It's but
it's
you
like,
know,
really? More of this? I know. Yeah.
But we can really find solace in the written word. So I picked up, I have two book suggestions, both having to do with family, since we're just coming off of the holidays. One is called The Pursuit of Love, and this is by Nancy Mitford. So not only do we get a book that looks into this reckless, crazy family in the London, in the English countryside in the 1920s and 30s, but it also is written by an author whose own family you can read about afterwards, who was also incredibly interesting in the world. They were part of the bright young things in society pre-World War II. But we have a book where we have the main character, Fanny, who does everything right, just like you and me, Melissa. She goes to college, she does all the right things, which is what our author, Nancy Mitford, is kind of like an alter ego of absolutely everything she wasn't. And she comes to live with her very fun family out in the countryside, and there are 6 young girls and 1 young boy. And the father likes to hunt the children when there's no one else, when the foxes aren't running, and he does funny exercises every day. It's just this crazy household. And this is where she meets her best friend and her cousin Linda, who is one of those girls who just wants to find love, hence the pursuit of love. So we watch these two characters grow up together and the choices they make as young girls, which aren't very different still from what young women have to do today. What happens is they reach a crossroads on what they're going to do with their lives. Are they going to take the right path, or are they going to do something wild? And I'll leave that up to you to decide. And if you don't want to read the book because you can't focus, lo and behold, a few weeks ago,
That's
I'm
a
going
problem.
Netflix, and I come across this film, and it's called The Pursuit of Love.
The Pursuit of Love.
So there's a film on that.
Focusing is a challenge. I think we can all relate to that. But The Pursuit of Love by Nancy Mitford. And before we let you go, you want everyone to sign up now for next month's discussion.
Right.
It's Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen.
That's right. And there we have a family in Indiana, 1971, who are also at a crossroads. They're at a crossroads in their own relationships within the family. The name of Crossroads is the name of a youth group at a church where the father is the head pastor. And it just takes you into this world, again, of family, what we share, what we hide, and what decisions we make and can find in faith to justify those decisions. Really interesting. Again, a family dynamic approached by 2 different authors, 2 very different outlooks on life. But I did find some type of peace in reading both of these books, because as much as the world changes, it really doesn't.
That's
really
right.
doesn't.
And family dynamics are eternal. Now, Stacy,
Yes.
with Omicron, you have taken a break from meeting in person with your book club, but you hope to resume that this
Mhm.
year, right?
Yeah, we do. We hope to meet next month. You can go to chapterendnotes.com and sign up to meet online or in person. Either one, both options are there. We meet at the beautiful San Marco Books at Moore, where you can also purchase your books. And, we're just going to keep trying, Melissa, because, we just keep calm and carry on, don't we?
That's right. Go to chapterendnotes.com. Learn all about Stacy's book club or drop her a line at bookclub@wjct.org. Always good to hear your voice. Happy reading.
Same.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening. Thanks also to senior producer Heather Schatz, director Josh Torres, associate producer Catherine Hobbs, editorial director Jessica Palumbo, and news editor Randy Roguski. You can drop us a line too. We always value your feedback. Communicate with us via email. It's firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Let us know what's on your mind and what's happening in your corner of the 904. I'm Melissa Ross. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be right back here again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great day. Be safe, everybody.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect with Melissa Ross. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
University of North Florida Graduate School offers programs designed for working professionals and those seeking a new career opportunity. Programs offer